Welcome to One More Today. I'm Sophie, your pilot into the universe of Chinese. Let's continue discover agriculture-related characters. And today, besides agriculture, 农, we add triple dots. And if you have learned Chinese for a little bit, you probably have seen this triple dots thing. It's simply a simplification of water. And one water sign paired with agriculture together, what that could be. We know agriculture requires water, irrigation, right? Plants have to be watered. So when we have water next to the plant, next to the farming activity itself, it actually means sick. So there is a little bit of a plot twist of, okay, we have water, we have farming altogether. Somehow it means sick. According to scholars, this 浓, also same pronunciation, but it means kind of a dewy. Okay, so dewy means temperature change while the humidity in the air in such a way that it becomes dewy. It's kind of a humidity level is high. And I guess if I have to make some claims of why farming plus watery farming. Okay, have to picture that environment of farming. I seen on TV a little bit of how rice pads or paddies, that's kind of in a water-filled patch of land. And that's kind of the environment in my mind, that this is farming and there's lots of water in there. And you probably would imagine with such a farming, it's a kind of heavily irrigated place, which is basically a pond with plants growing in it, that the environment, the microenvironment near that farm field would be dewy. So, okay, that's my connection. May not be true. Okay. And again, we can revisit what 浓 is about, because I need to kind of reinforce the learning. It was, I guess, the biggest discovery of me of, okay, this agriculture thing I never thought about. But in ancient times, we have the farming tool represented by this freshwater mussels or shells that used as the sharper edges that you can attach to a stick to plow through the farm field to loosen the soil. So that was at the bottom here. I don't know, I didn't check into what exactly that is, but this lengthy kind of nonlinear soft thing was said to be a soft body from the shell. Okay, the top, somebody else's hand holding a baby brain. Wow. Okay. Two readings. One is baby brain represent human intelligence, and with hand next to a brain, it means handling as if you're handling a baby brain with care, with nurture, right? Nurture plus the tool to nurture with, and the result is your crops are going to be nurtured with appropriate tools, right? So this tool is only, I think today's age, we're more technology focused. We have this and that, that pesticide or what is it called? Irrigation, all that technology go with ag tech, that we kind of lose touch of the kind of care, right? The kind of nurture that you, as if you're raising babies, human babies, you take that level of care and probably respect as well, because you're handling nature, right? Baby is part of nature. Next generation, future humans, right? And handle that with care, the same attitude transfer to crops. You handle that nature because, yeah, practically you're meddling with nature, right? Man-made nature. Try to grow them as naturally as possible, I guess, for the benefit of humans. So that this handling with care and farming practice is the philosophy or attitude that agriculture, at least the ancient agricultors, would hold toward farming. And farming used to be regarded as intellectual craft. So it's kind of a craftsman. And okay, I have some potted plants. I don't exactly have a green finger. I kind of know how little I know about a plant nurturing. I cannot take it for granted. If they're still alive with me, I'm like, okay, thank goodness. But I definitely killed quite some plants over the years, and it's not that easy. I definitely can regard that as quite a lot of knowledge and trial and error based. So it's intellectual activity as well as physical activity. So that's one version. The second is the legend has it at the beginning of everything, beginning of time, right? We have this divine farmer who came up with the whole system of how to handling crops, how to grow crops. Well, that's simply a lore of this culture to gather all the human knowledge, human activity, human wisdom, and personify it into one figure. And so that divine represented by this upper hand reaching from the upper frame, we have seen that actually in the God image. A god hold lightning bolt, kind of like a Zeus Chinese version, and that's regarded as divinity because that's kind of a god talking to us, right? God's language. We have to look up to whatever is out there, and that was the ancient understanding of the divine, and this godly, this divine handling the brain, the baby brain here represent like a human brains at a baby stage, and this divine farmer passed down all the knowledge of how to farm to our baby brains. Then we learned the craft of farming from that divine farmer. So either version, you want the legendary version or a not painstakingly, but an attitude toward farming as nurturing humans, baby humans. So you're nurturing baby plants. Either way, that's the origin of nóng that we nowadays simplified to this. It's like hardly recognizable. Even traditional Chinese is lost the nuance of at the beginning. And also later days, people will regard this as variations. It may not be the one and only truth. And indeed, at the beginning of language, language is a collective invention, and it could be many different versions coexist. And then eventually, whichever version kind of is more relatable, easier to use, easier to recognize all kinds of language attributes, right? That would be the version to survive. And we are left with only 2% of characters ever invented nowadays. Okay, a few examples of how we use nóng. So this dewy, this high humidity, eventually used to mean thick. And we know, okay, humidity is kind of air quality, air/water quality. So how we use it. 浓妆艳抹. Here we're talking about heavily painted face. Kind of ancient makeup industry or beauty industry. Okay, in today's lingo, it's a beauty industry, but apparently ancient times, a woman have to paint their face as well. And we have a set phrase here, 浓妆, thickly. 妆 is a woman next to what do you call it? A vanity desk. Exactly that imagery. So it's like a woman have to beautify itself thickly. And 艳抹, 艳, brightly colored, 抹, kind of smear. So you can see this 浓妆艳抹, it's kind of derogative about this heavily painted face aesthetics. Like it's an overkill, like trying too hard. So 浓妆艳抹 would be our language critique to that. It's like too thick, too bright. and to spend a lot of effort, time, and money, right, on this. So 浓妆艳抹, 浓墨重彩. Here, we're talking about not to paint your face, but to paint a story or picture with heavy, thick ink. 浓墨, because Chinese used to use ink and brush on paper. So that used to be the ancient writing tool set. So ink here represent writing. So thickly inked. And 重彩, heavily 彩, like decorated. Here is purely describing your rhetoric in make or storytelling. In your storytelling, you put so much details and emphasize on a particular detail or person or chapter. So it's kind of describing public propaganda or your kind of bias in there that you didn't give everything a fair amount of, ink. You heavily inked at some place. So that's 浓墨重彩. 浓眉大眼. Here we have 眉, the eyebrows. And here is the eye. And this is the brow. Okay, visually showing you. 大眼, big. 眼 is another, like a contemporary Chinese way to say eye. And you can see it shared this 目 symbol in there. So 浓墨, 浓眉大眼, we're talking about eyebrows. Thick means bushy eyebrows. 大眼, big eyes. Okay, 浓眉大眼, actually it's a positive term, even if it sounds a little bit cartoonish or dramatic. 浓眉大眼 normally is a Chinese way. Chinese actually, even if in a Western culture, Asians or East Asians were often caricatured as with slanted narrow eyes. Actually, Chinese culture themselves prefer big eyes, big, wide eyes. And that's the aesthetic preference. 浓眉大眼, simply like thick eyebrows, big eyes, normally used on men. Man with such, because 浓眉 is bushy, right? So in Chinese aesthetics, well, women's eyebrows better be more delicate than bushy. So cannot be 浓眉. That's for guys. So 浓眉大眼 normally is kind of, high testosterone, kind of aggressive male imagery. And here I'm just showing you how a heavily, like a thickly applied cosmetic face would look. And that's Chinese use 浓妆艳抹, heavily make up, heavily painted face. No, thank you for your time. See you another day.